Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics. Before I get into today's topics, I just want to say a big shout out to the immortal Biggie Shack. He has been a big fan and supporter of this channel since day one. He invited me right off of the bat into his channel, to the comic club, to the book club, and I just want to say out there, if you're not watching Biggie Shack, you're missing out. All right? Now, to the topic today. This is going to be one of my not quite a topic video with a whole bunch of comics. I want to talk today about character development in comics. One of my biggest disappointments about current comics is that they don't seem to stick around long enough, nor do the new characters get attention enough to develop the characters. There is too many books that don't make it for very long, or they introduce a character in a one shot and you never see it again, and you never get past anything but maybe one defining characteristic of the character. And I'm not going to get into that part of it. I'm just saying that unfortunately it happens. And one of the reasons I like older books and even current books that have the same characters is the continuity of the character and the fact that the character is more than just a person on paper, more than just a character that the person thought of. This person's been fleshed out. You got their identity. You know what they live. You know what they're like. You know what they're like as a hero or heroine, or hero, I guess the neuter term would be. You know what they're like in their civilian identities away from the action, and the character development can also, go to books such as Zombie Trap, because Zombie Trap is not necessarily a superhero, but the fact is it's stuck around long enough for the character to get some development. And what I am very disappointed with is that it seems to be something that's lost. It used to be that comic book writers would come in and they would be hired and they'd be told, "You're working on Batman. Now, here, the style guide for Batman." All right? They used to have style guides for characters. DC stopped using them a long time ago. I don't know what the Marvel situation ever was, but I know that DC used to have style guides where Superman will always react this way. Superman will look like this. Superman and Lois, whatever, like this is what the reaction is going to be. This is the personality of the characters. It's how to draw them, etc., etc. This is what happened to them that you can reference to in a future story, whatever that is. And that was a good thing that DC did. And I know that these exist because I have read both Jim Lee and Paul Levitz in interviews talking about the style guides. And I also seen not long ago Wes, I think his name is, from Thinking Critical. He had talked about how the DC style guide was getting an upgrade to the new to add a bunch of new characters to it, in case that they decide to continue with them. But I'm going to give a case in point in that with regards to characters that were just created and not used enough. There was a Teen Titans iteration, I'd like to say, which had the Red Arrow, the girl, the female Red Arrow there, and Lobo's daughter, and a couple of other characters with Damian Wayne. The only character that got any development in that book, and I read about 6 issues, was Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne is already established. They had the potential to make 5 other characters, I think it was, be good characters, characters that are memorable, which shows you how I remember a lot about comic books. And the fact that I can't remember anything other than these guys sat around talking about what they were interested in. That's all they did. Even when there was a crisis, I think one of them ended up giving their life in the last issue, and that was the end of that story. So obviously, he, or actually, I think it was a they, don't get to continue the story. But we have, with the exception of Lobo's daughter, who's made a couple of appearances in Power Girl recently, you do not see any of the other characters, and obviously Damian Wayne is Damian Wayne. You see him in Batman. Now that I've said this, what do I want to see in a character development? It's simple. I'd like to see a company not either continually start the person over with a new backstory, new whatever, or cancel the issues in six issues and never seen again. An example of a character like this is Dreamer. Dreamer only makes one appearance a year. And we don't deal with that because, I mean, like, she makes one appearance a year in the Pride books. So there's no other development of this character other than this character has a distinguishing characteristic. And that's sad because there could be a bunch of stories. The character is allegedly the ancestor of one of the Legionnaires. So how did that happen? Let's take a look at some of the backstory. Use the character more than once a year. I'm not saying it's a great character. I'm not saying it's a bad character. I'm just saying it's an unused character. So what I like to see in books, this is what I've seen in long-term books and what I'd like to see going on. Characters introduced. Bang. Let's use Supergirl. She banged down in Action Comics 252. First step. Superman abandons her to an orphanage. Dick move, but Superman during the Silver Age was a dick. At the same time, people would question what a single man would be doing with a 15-year-old girl suddenly moving into his apartment. So maybe it was for the best. But in this time, Supergirl learns how to live on Earth, how to use her powers, how to fit in, learns the value system that Kal-El has, and what it means to wear the S. She is then introduced to the world. She feels this responsibility. As she moves on, she helps people. She's also moves on. She's grown up a bit and left high school, and she's off to college. She finishes college eventually, gets a job as a reporter in San Francisco, gets herself a new villain in the guise of Nastasia Luthor. Yes, the niece of Luthor. Obviously, his brother. He did have an older brother, so obviously his brother's kid, who we don't see after she leaves. After Supergirl leaves this thing. After this, Supergirl decides to go to acting school. That's in her first. Solo series. There, Supergirl Volume 1. She's done acting school. She ends up in New York as a teacher, briefly as a teacher in Florida, and guidance counselor. Then she becomes an actress on a soap opera, and then when she quits that, goes back to school again to continue her studies in acting, and then that's when Crisis on Infinite Earths hits, and we all know how that ends. My point is the character kept growing. It wasn't just she was doing different things all the time, and with the same she was learning from the experiences, and each writer, as they kept going, added on to that experience and did not just drop everything and leave it and move her on and new things. I'm going to give you an actual comic book example of what I'm talking about with character development and such. This is Detective Comics 328. In this book, Alfred Pennyworth dies for the first time. Now, at this time, Alfred was not given the background of being a big, important part of the Batman mythos. So their grieving process was basically, well, I miss Alfred. Let's make a foundation in his name. Oh, look, Aunt Harriet has moved in. But the fact is, they did like him. He gave his life for them. He's obviously got better because he came back. But, okay, you do get a little bit of grief, though, thing. But they moved on, like, you know why Alfred's there. He's there to help Batman and Robin. He helps protect their secret. He keeps the house running, that kind of stuff. The next book I want to show from this point of view about character development. Many years later, the backstory of Pennyworth has changed slightly in that, unlike then, he actually raised Bruce. They though kept the Bronze Age, Silver Age relationship they had as close as, yes, it's master and servant, but, Batman and helper, whatever. They kept that going forever. Then we get Batman and the Outsider Special 1. In this one, Batman is presumed dead. He's actually missing in time, but that's beside the point. And he leaves a recording for Alfred where he thanks him and calls him Dad. And to me, that's a huge development in the characters. It is the natural progression. You have people who are close, and then people who got closer. And leading to the last one I'm going to show here, Batman 77, where Alfred Pennyworth was killed, this time for good. And for many issues since then, you see Batman upset that he's lost Alfred. And if Batman is anything but about loss of parents, loss of innocence, loss of hope at times, okay, the loss of the man who raised him and helped him on top of everything else really made things worse. The only good for Batman, the only good thing that came out of this is that Bruce was even more determined to be a better father to Damian. Which, again, is another character who has developed along. They do not forget that he was born and trained as an assassin for years and years and years. They are showing how he's changing under the tutelage of his father. One last point about the Alfred Pennyworth thing. I find it very interesting that with all the Batman family that has gone through Wayne Manor, that Alfred left his money, over $1 billion, to Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson alone. Which tells you the kind of relationships he had with the first Robin, and that he didn't get to develop as much with the younger ones. My point here is that character development is a very important part of long-term comics. We need it. Every issue should have some sort of small development. Because if you're only going to end up with a 10-issue series, like The Ferret, at least in that one we saw that he was a violent man, he was a rock and roll guy, he used to work as a cop, but was fired for being too violent, and he attempted to stop his violence. That's why he had joined the Protectors, and he got tired of that and left the Protectors and ended up being himself again. Small little bits, but every issue had a bit of development. This was intended not to be it's obvious, like a 10-issue series. This was intended to be more. What I'd like to see is more of that, and less of the, well, I'm a character that's standing here, but I might as well be a cardboard cutout for all I contribute to the story. Anyway, Thanks for listening to me today. I really appreciate it. If you like what you've seen, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Tell me what you think about comic books. What's your favorite part of comic books? Like me, it's obviously character development, and I like to, for all this talk about you need to identify with characters, I get it. I also get the fact that some people need to identify with certain characteristics. But that person is not just their characteristic, so the comic book characters shouldn't be either. That's all I'm going to say about that. I identify with Superman so much because I was the loner. I've always felt like a fish out of water. As he's grown up, as I've grown up, he's grown up too. He's now a father of a young child, well, younger child. I am a father with two teenage kids. Well, the second one's about to become a teenager, and I see that he struggles with that, and it's written that way. I saw that in the TV show too. I can identify with this. I can also identify with anybody who feels like they're out of the place, because that's who I was. But so if you can have the character continuity to make a person truly care for the character, as a writer, you've done the job. Because it doesn't matter what the art looks like if the writer has made a character that you can cheer for or you can love to hate, like the Scarecrow or the Joker. You know, they get development too. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Please like, subscribe, comment below. You know, thank you very much. My name is Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Bye, everyone.